we're messing with the technology to get this video going. So we're going to paint this image that you've chosen for us side by side. You're gonna paint it. I'm gonna paint it simultaneously, and we're gonna see whether we can record a little dueling demo.
Perfect, perfect. And how long time limit of 30 minutes?
Yeah, something like that. Like we only have an hour for this whole thing, and we've been messing around with technology. So we'll see. There's a lot of going on in this picture. So let's just paint it and see how far we get in 30 minutes.
Fantastic. So I'm going to share the reference photo we will be working off. I took the reference photo in Malake.
And you picked an amazing piece for us. The most complicated possible thing. I'm not sure why you picked this, but that'll be interesting. I mean, with all of this, look at those. Look at that table of shoes. I mean, I dare you to paint that. We'll see what happens.
Okay, I'll tell you the reason why I chose this. I made a series. I collected my reference pictures and then I put them in an order I want to paint them. And this happened to be on the 5th day. So today is the 6th day of painting, but I knew I would slip on one day because my son's birthday was on the 4th. So I would be late. So this is my 5th picture. And it just happened to be this. So I'm like, we want to set the
tone.
Okay,
yes. Yeah. No, we just do the one you're going to do. Take our chances. We're not, doesn't matter how challenging it is, we'll do it in public. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to stop my face recording and I'm going to go to my... All
right, I will also try to add my canvas in here. So now my head should be replaced with my paper.
Right, so I'm actually going to exit the other meeting completely. So all we see is this paper. So only 2 cameras get recorded. How about that?
Let's see if it works. Very good. Perfect. Okay, yeah, that makes it as big as possible on the screen. All right, so alla prima, just trying to dive in on this.
That's right.
Shall we just start?
To start, I think the recording will switch between wherever the audio feed is coming from.
All right, so it's going to go back and forth kind of at random.
That'll
be fine. That'll be fine.
Set it up so that both of us can be recorded side by side.
Yeah, so the thing that, I mean, what do you think? Isn't the thing that's kind of the most interesting about this is these tarps, these sort of weird, well, they're not weird, these sunshades, right?
Yes.
That's kind of that's pretty exciting. These big shapes in here. I assume that's one of the things that drew you to this.
And the percolated light. So I want to study light and I want to go to dim light. So I started with sunny and I'm cloudy, not completely sunny, cloudy to amorphous light. And then I'll go to darker and darker images as you see.
Yeah, you have this challenge ongoing. You're trying to get to nocturnes, I guess.
Yeah, and I've been failing quite a bit. So I keep on trying.
Yeah, it was pretty hard to get the watercolor to do that, right?
Yeah, and also my eyes don't see well. So I can see well at home, but when I go out, my colors get muddied. So I'm trying to figure out how I can see my paints better. Marc, do you see my painting at all?
Yep. Okay. I can see your little square there. I mean, on my view, since I've done the sharing thing, it's switched to the little preview in the corner. Okay. Little thumbnail in the corner, so I can't hardly cheat off you. Okay. How are you starting? I'm starting with trying to set up the light coming through this tarp.
Correct. Set up the light. Before that, I also want to know where I have to leave out my whites a bit. So I'm marking off my areas a bit first because it's very complex.
It's kind of a spider's web or whatever up there, like a spiral pattern almost, I see. Oh, everything intersects. Yeah, there, yeah, exactly. Everything kind of intersects in there.
Yeah.
I'm looking at yours, yeah. These sort of corners where there's that little hole to the sky up there.
So this is a market in that takes place on a Wednesday in Melaque in Mexico. And so there are multiple tarps. Each shop has its own tarp, and over the tarp on the walkway, there's another major tarp. So it's so depending on how the shops are set up, you sometimes have more light, less light, more wind. And each of these tarps capture some wind during the day, and which is very interesting. Interesting meaning to feel. It feels nice.
It must sound interesting when you're there too. You get kind of a flapping or whatever, the moving of the cloth.
Yeah.
Snapping of the tarps. Yeah, I can imagine. One thing you can't see is my palette. I can put it in the picture. It's kind of not really.
It's okay. I mean, we're trying our best, and then next time maybe we'll figure out a better way to do these things. So
yeah. All right. So talking while drawing is always incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing people only have to bear with us for half an hour. Sometimes I find a really complicated image is almost easier in a way than something that's very subtle or smooth or has a lot of very flat gradients in it. Not flat gradients, but smooth, gradual gradients. Sometimes something that's complicated is all broken up into little shapes and you can just think about one shape at a time.
Yeah, and somehow people don't expect accuracy from you in those cases sometimes. So you can abstract more easily, I think.
Yeah. Maybe you can abstract it. If it's really complicated, you just have to get the impression of what do I see in big the big shapes, the bold impressions. I was just trying a piece earlier this morning that was like one of those beach scenes where you have water coming in over the rocks, and I hate those in watercolor because you're trying to get this smooth gradient of reflecting water going around a lot of tiny shapes. It's really annoying. Oh my goodness, I'm glancing over and you've already got this whole thing here. So I'm talking, okay, so we're very interesting. We're going about it in a very different way.
Good, right? Because I can't see yours while the camera is up. And so there's no, I mean, of course, there's a fear of doing this live, but we can't see the crowd. Waiting for it to dry now.
So I'm trying to, in my mind, mark out where these, I guess these are all t-shirts or little dresses or, the clothes on the line. Or
Yeah.
what's super interesting to me. So everything above that is the fabric of the tarp, the dark of that tarp up there. What are you using for your scarlet?
I think it's a quinacridone magenta.
Yeah.
And then I have a burnt sienna mixed in it to make it a little more red, not so pink.
I've got Parylene.
A Parylene here. Okay.
Parylene.
Yeah. Everything's super wet. I'm going to quickly go dry it and come back.
Okay. I don't know if you can just mute and put hairdryer on.
Let me see if I can mute myself.
So, oh, you're gone. You took it off. You took it off. I was going to cheat and look at yours. So I'm trying to build this tarp and leave it, like go around where this fabric might, where the shirts, I'm going to call them, where the clothes might be. Just kind of go around where they might be. Oh, nice. You see this? This has happening to my brushes all the time. I'm losing a brush here. Okay, so yeah, you get an area that's too wet, right? So you got to leave that for a little while. Let that sit up there, move to the next shape. I'm trying to mix up something purplish. Switch to the other side here. Oops, that's not purple at all. Interesting. All right, so it's not entirely purple. C'est la vie. I switched a while back to these glass jars for water.
Are you liking them?
I like the little sound it leaves on a video. Okay, so yeah, that's interesting. I see we're both building these big shapes, these big diagonals.
Right. And I'm still thinking as I paint as to exactly what is the focus of my painting. And it's kind of hard to answer that question right now. I want it to be this diagonal somewhere here, but that's way in the center. So that's a problem I've created myself.
Well, it's kind of it's kind of nice that there's this abstract thing going on up top, right?
Yes, yes.
The big solid shape of the abstraction.
Yes, absolutely. That is interesting. Absolutely.
Okay, so boy, it's easy to get lost in all this stuff.
Yeah. Which dress is more important than the other? I don't know.
When you don't have to put them exactly where they are, right?
That's right. Oh.
Sorry.
Sometimes
Was that?
I, sometimes I become mute because I hold my breath or something. I don't do it on purpose, but it just happens that I held my breath.
You need a yoga coach while you're painting. Breathe, breathe, breathe.
Painting is so much like yoga, so much like yoga. I find it.
All right, so trying to make the appearance of this hanging fabric, it's just sort of alternating. They're almost just they're like flag shapes, rectangles, right? Just these alternating shapes. So you want to leave room for a white dress in between. So I'm getting into that, making like little piano key kind of shapes, maybe. Oops. Trying to get a lighter color out of something like grayer color. Ah, boy, when you put down some indigo, that color is there forever. I've gravitated to a lot of very intense pigments. So I've got turquoise, which is basically phthalo blue, and an indigo. So there are some of these colors that when they get on your brush or they get on your palette, they get in everything.
That's right. Do you like playing with phthalo blue? Like, do you use it often?
Yeah. Yeah. Because I want some colors to be stronger darks. So I always figure I can add water or add white to make a brighter blue out of it.
Yeah.
I like something that I like to have the grayness in the palette as well. So
Yeah.
indigo is a blue that I'm pretty sure has black in it, right?
I don't know. Indigo
Okay.
sounds natural color. Uh,
Yeah,
so
right. That's the color name. So like a color name, like uh, calling a color turquoise, but it's phthalo blue and some other combinations. I'm not the color person. That's I always have to look all that up with that handprint guy for color stuff.
website amazing.
Or see what Jane Blundell has to say. But you
That's
just
right.
read what's on the tubes, right? You read the little numbers on the side of the tube to see what you've really got.
They're amazing. They keep it up, updated. I don't think anybody's going to be able to tell that these are shoes. I needed to have one or two like shoes that would read. I don't know how to do that. So
Well, to be honest, you can't even tell their shoes looking at the photograph. I don't think. I think they just come across as like a texture there. The trick about these dresses is trying to paint the little hole in the neck.
Yes.
Like there's a little gap that in between the hanger and the neck.
Yes, yes, exactly.
And that tells you what it is. Well, I don't know, maybe. Phew. So it's interesting. You've covered your entire sheet, and then you're working into these color areas. And I'm doing something more like fusing shapes one to another as I march away from the center.
Wow. Do you always paint like that?
So yeah, I mean, when it's a really complicated shape like this very strange, all these things hanging down and all these thousands of shoes on the table and all these dresses in a row, it's a complicated silhouette, right? So I guess I call that a broken silhouette sometimes. So yeah, I'll often make this fused shape where I'm trying to build the silhouette like putting mosaic tiles down or something. So this silhouette is appearing by putting all these bricks beside each other to try to remember to leave a white brick in there. I don't know, for that. Like the white, every other shirt in the row is a white shirt, right? It goes white, black, white, black, white, black, kind of. So that's useful to try to keep that. Maybe, I don't know. And I need to have some dry paper to paint these.
Yes.
Wires.
Correct.
It's sort of going inside all these. The way these tarps are under tension, they're being held together by these wires. It's kind of interesting. And then all the dresses are hanging off of wires. Yeah. To get that mood in there.
I think I'm gonna try and get 2 hangers and then I'm done. That's enough.
Done. Done your picture?
Not for the whole painting, but I can't do more hangers.
Good. You had me kind of freaked out. You're done your picture. What are you talking about? I'm always excited about the complexity, though. The complexity is, trying to tackle this insane amount of stuff. That's interesting. That is the project, right? That's what's crazy about the project.
How to minimize it and yet convey it, I don't know. It has a good chance we will fail. And that's exciting.
You sort of have to take on the complexity because that's why you picked this. That's why you chose this picture, right? I assume that's why you chose this picture. I have to admit, you sent it to me in advance, right? So we looked at it and I debated complaining. I debated protesting why you picked this one. But I can see why you picked it, right? You picked it because you want to take on this challenge. Okay, so I got a sense of all these dresses hanging down in this row, and I need to clean my little palette. So I'll bring it over here. My little palette is full of these like mixed color blotches. So when I have this, I use the same travel kit that I used to use for urban sketching, generally, unless it's a really big painting. So it only has two mixing wells and those little tiny sort of thumb-sized ones on the bottom. So I always have to stop and clean out the paint. Otherwise, you just get gray in your, too many colors in your little mixing wells.
So when you do urban sketching, how do you manage dark scenes? Because the water really does turn gray very quickly.
Well, there's a couple, let's see. So I would do a couple things. I would, first of all, I carry my water in 3 little jars, tiny jars. So that when the water gets dirt, like when I'm dirtying one water just by putting the brush in it, right? So as I dirty one water, I still have clean water with me. It's 3 separate bottles. instead of one big bottle, like you might carry it in like a drinking jug or something, right?
Yeah.
But then every time you dip into it, you're dirtying your entire supply.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I carry three different water supplies. Outside also, Matthew Brem showed me when you're outside, you can throw the paint out of your brush. You snap the brush with your wrist,
Yeah,
and flick the paint out of your brush before you even touch the water.
huh?
So it keeps your water as clean as possible.
Understand that.
Yeah.
Can't do it, but I mean, I've not done it, but I understand the concept. Yes.
Yeah. So when you're outside, you can just flick. Can I do this here? You like a sharp snap, and just like you're trying to throw dots on your painting, if you've ever done that. And yeah, toss the water out of the brush before you dip it in your water supply.
Understand.
Yeah. To keep the darks from getting in everything. Yeah. Maybe. So I'm getting onto this side here where looks like a bunch of purses and there's some kind of weird framework here. But okay, when you were asking about doing dark scenes on location. So, I mean, I don't know if you're talking about painting at night or something, but it's pretty hard with watercolor to paint a dark scene in one go, right? Like to be alla prima in a dark scene because the watercolor wants to dry lighter.
It wants to dry later, and at night cannot tell the difference in the color, even on a white palette, because
well, that's less of a problem if you really know your palette. All your colors always in the same place.
no, I do know the palette very well. It's like what have I mixed in my palette? I can't see it as well.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Sometimes you're just sometimes you can pull directly from the wells, but yeah, it's tough. Of course, a lot of mixed darks are all the same anyway. Like it doesn't matter what you put in them if you're darkening the value, right? So you just add a little bit of everything you've got till it becomes darker and darker and darker.
Got it.
Like
so
if you're doing a night sky and you accidentally put a whole bunch of purple next to a whole bunch of brown or something, it doesn't matter because it's all in the sky. Maybe.
I'm going to start abstracting and then come back to define humans if I need to. Of the body, but it is so complex that I have to now start abstracting so that I can stay.
Start abstracting.
Yeah. What do you have the
time? I don't know. I wasn't keeping track. It's 3:30. So when did we start? We started around 3. So yeah, you're not going to be able to do this in half an hour and do a good job of it. I'll go until you say I can't go any longer.
How are you doing with time?
Well, it's 3:30. I can paint all afternoon.
No, with this particular scene, how are you?
Well, I'll need at least, let's give me 10 more minutes.
Okay, yeah.
How about that? I was laughing when you said start abstracting because isn't that the whole thing?
Worse stuff to it.
This whole thing is an exercise in abstracting.
Okay.
Because when you get to these tables full of junk, not junk, full of this valuable goods these people are selling, it's just like dots and dashes at that point for me. You're trying to create a texture of
Yeah.
all these broken lights. So it really is a mosaic pattern thing. Spending way too long on that purse stall on the corner.
I need to pull, I have lost some, but I'm going to come back and capture them again.
I have a color called Pyro Orange, which I quite like because it's so strong. So there's a lot of that going into this picture to make little bright things. Like on these tables, there's a lot of pinks and yellows and whatever, right? So sometimes I'll just not use all the colors, right? Like I won't necessarily use all the colors that are in the scene. I don't know about you.
It is my. I know what to do. I know what I have to do. You asked me the other day why I don't paint in oils, and I'll tell you, it was a long story, so I did not respond to that.
Yeah, and I asked you on Instagram, which is the wrong place to ask you. I was just teasing you.
No, so I got oils in 2019, and then I developed an allergy.
To the solvent, I assume.
Yes, and I only could maybe take a chance if I went out and painted. And then the pandemic happened, and so going out and painting it lost. I forgot about it actually.
So my solution is not to use any solvents with the oils. So I only mix the oil with linseed oil, which is neutral, right? There's no volatile material in the linseed oil. And I use this thing called cold wax medium, which is, I mean, there is some solvent in that, but it's much less volatile because it's bound up in something, which I'm going to say is beeswax, and I could be wrong. But it's definitely like it's a melted waxy feeling goo material that they call cold wax medium. So I'm going to say it's beeswax in there. So that and linseed oil. So I never use any solvent.
I see.
And I clean that's the other reason I do a lot of knife painting, because I hate cleaning brushes with solvent. So then I'll clean the brushes just by wiping them with the linseed oil itself.
Got it.
Yeah. So a friend of mine, Agnes Colcott, from school, she has kids, right? So she said she researched painting with no solvent at all. So I got all this from her. You just clean everything with the linseed oil right on the brushes, and it actually conditions your brushes and they last a bit longer as well.
So linseed oil also I cannot stand, but what I do know there are aroma less thingies, and I found out last week while cleaning something else in my studio, I dropped the bottle of one of the a walnut spike oil. That's what I got.
Wait, so linseed oil you just don't like the smell? Like it's not toxic at all?
No, it's not toxic, but I don't like the smell, and I might throw up that amount I don't like.
Oh, well, all right, there's that. If you're going to hurl, that's different. But it's not toxic, so you don't have to be concerned about the smell.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. But then last week, a bottle of walnut spike oil, which also I thought I couldn't handle, broke in the studio. And so I exited the studio right away. I said, I'm going to throw up. So I went home. Next day, I came back and the smell wasn't that bad. So I'm thinking maybe I'm done with that. And it's time I can.
Maybe. Also, what about just water-soluble oils? I mean, they really are fine.
I'll look into them for sure.
Yeah. So there's a Winton as the student brand, and there's Winsor Newton makes some, but I'm sure other people make them too. So they're just oil paint, it's the exact same pigment, and then they do a chemistry dodge where they emulsify the paint in little microcapsules that'll then flow with water.
I see. Okay.
So it's the same paint. It's just I'm pretty sure they call it an emulsifier that's in there. So you can mix them with oils, intermix them with regular oils. You're with no fear.
Okay.
You can just, or you can whatever, and you can just clean up with water. So they're also really good for taking in the field. These water soluble oils. So you can try that.
Try that, yeah.
So my problem with this little palette is something that I recognize as a flaw with my approach, is that it's always hard to make a large enough batch of color for a big area. So I'd like to mix up a big puddle that you can take over a larger area. So it's not a great solution, but I'm so used to the palette and the way I have my colors lined up. So if I could, I suppose I could just find somewhere one that's exactly the same but bigger, just physically larger with the same grid. Or I could glue this palette onto a bigger tray, I guess.
So why the glass jars?
Oh, I was just mentioning it because you can hear it off the side. Why glass jars? No reason. No reason. Actually, I bought them for flowers. Actually, I was doing aquaculture for a while, so I had all these glass jars. I had what do you call them? Orchids in these glass jars. And I said, I'm not going to take care of plants. No time to take care of plants. So if I can put them in water and master this, I read about this aquaculture online, and if they'll live that way, then great. If I don't have to do anything, I can have plants. So they lasted about a year and then died off. You have to keep it completely sterile. So I did something wrong.
So my studio is generally quiet, but when I do have noise, it's either I'm close to a fire station.
So when you do have noise, it's a lot of noise. Well, hopefully that isn't happening today. So I'm trying to build up this crazy pattern of people and shops in the back row, like looking down our row of
I've lost
shops, right? Then at the back row there's this sort of weird, I like the word weird, even it doesn't mean anything when I say it. It's not weird. There's a sort of a horizontal bar of darkness across that back row.
Yeah, absolutely right here.
So something I like to do is reestablish horizontal lines across the composition at some point, like whatever the most important lines of action are, right? But sometimes I'll make the line of the horizon in the landscape, and you can't see it everywhere. You can only see, you can see it in one place and then it picks up again in another place. So there's a dotted line. So there's like a bar of darkness across the back with our people in front of it. But that bar is created by a lot of broken little tiles, little staccato tiles. So I'm trying to make a continuous line that goes all the way of dark all the way across the horizon out of little Lego pieces or something.
Got it. I'm ready to call it when you're ready to call it.
Okay, well, let me just put the people in here. Did you put the people in?
I tried, but there's no time. I mean, I need more fine brushwork.
That's all this is fine brushwork. Okay, let's see. How fast can I put the people in? Some little, who's that guy? Alvaro people.
A lot of people. Yes.
Okay. All right. Good. Maybe. Couple more.
I'm constant, maybe, but I got to step away before I come back.
All right. So what time is it? So I got 1:45. So we took a little. That's about a half hour. That's about a half hour. Maybe we took a little, slightly bit longer. All right. Done.
Okay.
Done?
I want to see. Yes, done.
Okay. Oh, I just have to carry this, get this line to go across.
Oh, I'm seeing all the things that I should have done, but.
Well, okay.
Woohoo!
Cheating. Stop painting. I'm talking to myself. I'm connecting a few shapes. Okay, so, phew. What do I do?
Connect the other video and then stop this camera so that you can see my face, and I'm going to hold up my paint.
Yeah, and I'm going to stop my share here. Stop share. Okay, so that's my mug, and in a second when I can lift this painting up. Wow, look at that. We've got we're rocking the Casbah there. Okay, so
hey,
just
can you hear me?
Yes, I got you back. Just
Perfect.
Disconnecting so we can show our work here. I take mine down, so give me a second.
I want to see the tape removal. Sorry, everybody likes to see tape removal.
Yeah, right. Well, no, can't do it. It's facing down. All right, my painting is so different than yours. It's amazing. That's very good. That's good. I'm glad we did that. Complete.
Yeah, something, you know. And it's just the 6th day, so.
No, I'm glad we did this this particular image because we have such a different approach to it. It'll be good. It's good for the demo.
Yeah.
I got a glimpse of yours before we disconnected. So, okay. So I just have a few drips. So they don't run down the page. Give me 1 second. I take a little tiny piece of paper towel and suck up the corner of some of these drips. Okay, there we go. All right. So
let me see. Wow. So that fine brushwork is so fine and so controlled, yet abstract.
To get it in the light. There we go. Okay, there we go. So it's not overexposing on the camera.
Fantastic.
So the part that I was talking about, sort of this piano key idea of making all those hanging clothes out of these flag shapes that just connect one to the other, and it makes the whole tarp. So yeah, I have a very light, high key kind of urban sketch. Now, compared to yours, some of yours again, compared to yours, that's.
But what I liked about yours was the brushwork was fine, but not fiddly. And then the silhouettes of the brushes of the mannequins on the floor, that was perfect.
Yeah, it's really overexposed here. It looks much better. You can't see it. The people who are watching from the other camera got a better look at it. So
send me a picture and I'll append it to the recording because I think the silhouette on the mannequins are perfect. That transparency is gorgeous.
Hanging dresses, yeah. But what you got, put yours back up, is the this idea of everything being under these tarps, in the shadow under the tarps. So yeah, that's tremendous. That deep cast shadow that you're underneath your camera is moving for you.
But it's too red, I think. But okay, I mean, now it's
yeah, the color is really intense. The chroma is really intense, but it doesn't really matter. The value is really good. So what you got is that cast shadow on the ground. Really shows that you're under the tarp, and by filling the whole thing. So I'm poking away at this thing, trying to draw the dresses, and you just charged in and filled the entire page. So then you had that the big blocks of shapes, right, that you're poking into. So ultimately, that really gets the sense of the light in there much better. That's what you're talking about, right? That you're trying to paint the light, paint the volume of the light. Yeah. So I did a little drawing. Yeah.
What I would change, the sharp line here was important. Sorry, the sharp line here was important. Now it's broken right here a little bit, and that's important. That's important to say, not frayed, and too many white spaces. So I need to kill these spaces. It's just too much.
Yeah, you can always go back afterwards and just hit some of them. But obviously we don't like to go back. You still got that triangle of light between the tarp. Right?
Yeah.
So her edge might be fuzzy because your paper was too wet when you did it or whatever, but you can still see that triangle where the light is coming through, which makes sense. Makes the contrast, the light and dark contrast. Yeah, excellent. Yeah. So I ended up doing a drawing, and you did a painting. So that'll be very good when they can see them side by side in the post. For real, I'll scan this or photo it or whatever. Yeah.
Thank you for joining me. This was great. I had a lot of fun. Thank you for joining.
Oh, no, thank you. It's great this side-by-side idea. People can see two totally different approaches. So I hope the video turns out. I can't wait to see it.
Perfect.